The Yamaha R15 changed everything. It brought us the idea that a 150cc superbike, well, super sport bike, was a good thing, and it worked. The version 2 became more focused, and we waited a long time for the version 2 to be superseded. Today, that day has come. And now the brand new version of that game-changing motorcycle is here. That is the new R15 version 3. Technically it's brand new, new engine, new frame, variable valve actuation, and we are here at the racetrack to find out what all of that adds up to. Technically this is a brand new engine and there is a lot of change inside, including the bore which goes up and makes the engine 155cc now. But the thing to talk about is variable valve actuation, and this thing has two modes for the valves. The inlet valves change how they open above 7000 RPM, and you get an indication that says variable valve actuation is active. Just to remind you, there's also a little piece of text here that says this motorcycle has VVA or variable valve actuation. And if I say variable valve actuation one more time, you can hit me. Yamaha says that it uses this system on their international NMAX scooter to ensure the flattest torque curve important on a 125 and 150cc scooter platform. On the R15, the VVA brings more performance everywhere. The new R15 makes more torque and more power all the way from idle to redline. To go with the engine, there is a much bigger airbox, the same 6-speed gearbox but the final drive is a bit lower, and a new slip and assist clutch that reduces clutch effort and adds a slipper clutch function to the new R15. And this isn't just an engine change either. The R15 also gets a brand new frame, that's new suspension. The rear suspension now has a linkage, the swing arm is wider, this frame is different, and as soon as you ride the motorcycle, you can tell two things. One is it is definitely an R15, and second, it's like no R15 you've ridden yet. The new frame also brings wider tires and a shorter swing arm. Yamaha says it was designed to respond to the rider even quicker than before while keeping the stability that makes the R15 so friendly. Our test bikes were wearing the optional rear Metzeler radial with the bias ply MRF front tire that's standard, and the combination of the two set all of my alarm bells ringing. But once we settled the tire pressures for track use, and that's usually slightly lower than the street recommended pressure, I found nothing to complain about. The R15 turns very fast now, feeling both weightless and ultra responsive. It's quite stable, but the way it takes up the lean angles is something that you will have to learn to get used to. I had my knee down in places on the circuit where I never ever do, and the slider came down to the tarmac so hard every single time. And yet, I could not find any mismatch between the grip of the front and the rear tire, even at pace. The newfound power and handling does change the feeling of the R15 though. It feels very sharp as usual, but it also feels a little bit less friendly than the old R15. That said, this is still a solid starter sports bike, no question, but it is much sportier now. And it looks much sportier also. It feels more spacious, longer and lower, although it definitely isn't the latter two. The new design looks sleek and neat, and here and there you'll see details that clearly reference the current R1 and R6. The LED headlamp looks great, and I have to say it feels just as well built as ever. However, there are a few places where the cost efficiencies are all too visible and the finish levels are not as high as we expect from Yamaha, who usually set the class benchmark. So that's a solid update to the R15. The new engine is nice and punchy, and I think on the street when we ride it, we like the idea that you don't have to rev this R15 all the way to extract performance. It's wrapped up in a very nice looking body shell. It looks modern. It looks like it talks to what the current R1 and the R6 look like, and at the same time it goes sort of like the old R15. It's predictable, it's trustworthy, and you really enjoy riding it. What remains, of course, is the road test, where that bike has to do more than just ace the racetrack. It has to come out into the real world and perform, and you should stay tuned because I am really excited about that.